I've played a lot of NES games, but for the longest time, I didn't mess with games based on movies for obvious reasons. But I was given a challenge by Metabolism4438 to call out the top 10 worst movie-based games on the NES. And let me tell you, I've learned a few things playing through 68 games to make a top 10 list. Number 1. Companies abused movie licenses to make a quick profit. Just makes sense. Number 2. I don't think the developers actually watched the movies that they made games for. Number 3. LJN is a hot dog water company that would publish 50 Shades of Grey as an NES game if given the chance, and it would likely be a shitty platformer. That being said, I was able to generate a list, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's begin. I've never seen the movie Cool World, but I have a sneaking suspicion that in the movie, Brad Pitt, as Detective Harris, doesn't need to find 5 pieces of a tunnel map to connect himself back to the real world. Additionally, I have a small inkling of a hunch that the police in this game that consistently try to murder you aren't the bad guys in the movie. This game has nothing to do with the movie outside of the setting. The actual film involves Brad Pitt being teleported to the cool world and restarting his life as a detective, all the while Kim Basinger is trying to fuck herself to the real world. You see, these cartoon beings, they're called doodles, and if they have sex with a real person, they become noids. The entire premise of this film is a fever dream, and if you know anything about the works of Ralph Bakshi, then you would know that at no point should any of his movies be adapted into video games. They are almost always pushing the boundaries of what is acceptable in cinema. I mean, the dude made the first X-rated animated film. Yeah, this game made no sense. You just walk around getting bodied by anything and everything, and then you die. Welcome to Cool World. Fuck you. The Untouchables is a cool movie. I happen to enjoy it, but the game, not so much. Now, the game itself is an example of a good thing executed horribly, at least for me. The first stage of the game involves a sort of shooting minigame with 3 little stages where you fire on mobsters that pop up out of windows. You have to do this damn near perfectly because you have an asinine time limit. Stage 1, you have to shoot 3 enemies in 25 seconds. That's easy. Street 2, you have 23 seconds for 4 enemies. Street 3, 8 enemies in 25 seconds. Now, you might think it looks easy. I assure you, it isn't. The crosshair takes forever to move to where you want it to, and the amount of time you waste trying to assume where an enemy will pop up eats your time. If you make it past this part, you get a generic horizontal platformer that isn't as bad as it could be. Platforming. Why did so many companies fail to figure out platforming? Where to begin? Let's see. Hook lets us play as Peter Pan, right? Cool. Well, Peter is about 3 feet tall and apparently has a neutron star in his pocket because he can't move with any sort of momentum. And in an environment where people are shooting you, you need extremely good reflexes to dodge it. Everything about this game is frustrating. The controls obviously are the main point of contention, but the design aesthetics of this game are just as frustrating to me. Between levels, we get this creepy Carol Burnett looking Tinkerbell and these massive all caps words like in the form of briefings that just hurt your brain. Some people see this as a solid platformer, which good for you. The only solid thing I saw was Peter Pan attempting to walk forward. I've covered this game before. Platoon is based on the movie, and I can say with confidence that this game does one thing well, and that is making me believe that being in the Vietnam War was more fun than this game. The whole process involves 4 levels, all of which are different and all of which are dreadful in how they're presented. From a left to right maze to a first-person maze to a shooting stage to Akari Warriors ripoff on the last stage, the whole game is just nonsense. Party on! Excellent! Alright! Fuck you! While Wayne's World does remain sort of faithful to the film, Radical Entertainment did a fine job of ensuring that Wayne's World was represented as some salvia-fueled nightmare trip of nonsense. The enemies are bullet sponges, the level design is trash, and the game just overall isn't fun. Wayne uses these stupid karate kicks and Garth has a laser gun. Neither of them feel like they do anything, but hey, at least it's kind of easy. I've played a few games based on this Tom Clancy work, but I've never seen the movie. If I were to base my opinion on the movie from the NES game, I would describe it as Sean Connery in a Flappy Bird submarine shooting things and dodging an immeasurable amount of mini submarines, minefields, and laser cannons. In stark comparison to the 1984 DOS submarine simulator, which I actually enjoyed to some capacity, the NES version is just a silly game that will test your patience. It's not the worst that the NES has to offer, but it's up there. I've played this game, and you were probably wondering, where the hell is Goonies 1? Well, here it is, in my hand. Now you can go live your life. For those of you who don't know, the Goonies franchise saw its video game start on the Commodore 64 and other computers, and yes, it's trash. In that game, you go and rescue all of the Goonies while these strange dudes chase you. I'm assuming it's the Fratellis, and from that original game, the Goonies on the Famicom was created. And to be honest, that game isn't half bad. Sure, it reeks of Konami hidden level bullshit, but it's not bad. The Goonies 2, totally different ballgame. In the game, we play as Mikey, and our job is to go around and find the Goonies. Seems easy, right? No! It's an exploration-based game, and to explore, we need to go into every single room and knock on the roof, on the wall, on the floor. We need to use a ladder on the roof, a hammer on the wall, on the roof, on the floor, in every single room. Trying to find everything and anything that we can do. And then boom! Sometimes we get teleported. If you want to play this, trust me, just use a walkthrough or at least a map. It'll make it so much easier. Ever wanted to play as Godzilla? What about Mothra? Want to fight Ghidorah, Mugiwara, Varan, Hedorah, Baragon, Gigan, Mechagodzilla, or King Ghidorah? Remember all those action figures back in the day that you would see in Spencer's? Yeah, strap in, buddy, because you're in for a long ride if you want to. In the game, we play as either Mothra or Godzilla, and we're presented with this game board. Cool, I get what we're doing. It's like a tactical RPG, right? Not particularly. Once we enter combat, we have to go into this horribly designed side-scrolling combat stage where you're hit with a barrage of anything and everything Compile could code into an NES game. It is 100% unfair and 100% unfun. This might be a hot take. Some folks might find that Back to the Future 1 on the NES is a bad game, and while it is, I actually made it pretty far before the nonsense started kicking in. I was able to dodge the bees and the mirror people and the hula hoop girls the first time. I was even able to tune into the whole mug throwing minigame even though it's trash. But good Lord Almighty! I'd rather tie a stake to my nuts and run through a pack of lions naked than ever play Back to the Future 2 and 3 again. The jumps in this game are terrible, and terrible jumps in a platformer is a huge no-no to me. The whole idea is that Biff, he's created an alternate reality, but this alternate reality has a little bit of LGN buffoonery sprinkled on top, such as sentient walking hamburgers that try to kill you. In typical LJN style, there's so much creative license that they allow to the developers that in some ways, it's like putting together a massive puzzle from memory with no opportunity for mistakes. It's bad. I love Mad Max, but the NES game is much to be desired. Right from the beginning, we're doomed to fail. We're in a car, and we need to go figuring out what to do because the game itself won't tell you in any way, shape, or form. If you know the basic plot of Mad Max, it's a dystopian future where oil and gas is a sought-out commodity, kind of like Waterworld with its dirt, right? You're supposed to find these scavenging stages to get gas and oil and dynamite and pretty much everything you need to survive, but you're blasted to high heaven or run out of gas before you'll ever find out where you need to go. And I'll be honest with you, I will never complain about my car's gas economy ever again after experiencing this game. It's got a fun factor of somewhere between stubbing your toe and a prostate exam. I've noticed that a vast majority of my viewers aren't subscribed. If you get the time, please do consider subscribing to the channel and joining a wonderful community on YouTube chock to the brim with video game enthusiasts that love sharing their personal experiences. We would love to have you here. Let's go ahead and look at number 5. I was severely disappointed in Beetle Juice because this was made by Rare, but we have to remember every company has to start somewhere, and Rare during their NES years were very hit and miss. While Cobra Triangle, RPM Racing, Pirates, Solar Jetman, and Snake Rattle and Roll were decent, the vast majority of Rare's NES library is a train of bullshit and Beetle Juice is the conductor. It's a platformer, but it's incredibly slippery, and to be honest, if Rare had just cared a little bit more about the platforming aspect, I think it would have been just a more generic platformer, but still playable. You need to grind for these beetles for points just to buy a scare, which is the power-up, and all you can do is stomp. You just stomp your stupid feet, hoping to get beetles to get points, all the while gliding across the ground because what the fuck even is inertia? I'm fairly certain I've seen a friend of mine play the Super Nintendo version of this and it didn't look fun at all. Now I played the NES version, which guess what? It's not fun at all. You basically walk around while getting gangbanged by anything and everything, and God forbid you walk past an alleyway not paying attention because you'll get kidnapped. Just straight up yoinked into a secondary level, which I find kind of funny because Arnold's character is like 5 feet taller than the person that kidnapped him. It's comical actually, check it out. While the game isn't worth your time, the later portions of the game actually feel like a video game. The first part, it's a test of patience, which is never fun. I know nothing about this outside of the fact that the Angry Video Game Nerd covered it, and that Bruce Willis really wants a cup of goddamn coffee. I started the game and proceeded to get launched off of a roof by a dog 30 times, and the only way to defend yourself is to throw baseballs. Baseballs! But the thing that killed it for me was the platforming. It's damn near pixel perfect and features a rather annoying system for navigating obstacles. But I do have a question for you. Do you remember the part where we start lobbing softballs at owls? How about nuns? What about fighting a kangaroo on the roof? Yeah, I didn't think so. This game in particular hurt my spirit because if you've been a longtime supporter of what I do, or really even my stream as a whole, you know that I love shoot-'em-ups. I just love them, they're fun to me. This game tried to be edgy, but in reality, it's just a very mediocre time. The enemies are as generic can get, and the controls are absolute donkey shit, which really matters when we talk about shooters. It's the lifeblood of the genre. You spend more time turning around, and because that animation takes so long, it shoots you in the foot. The enemies just run you over like a freight train. It's very rudimentary, and even the most rudimentary shooters did better than this. This game is infamous for being dreadful, and that's because it is. Home Alone is literally walking around while two people try to kill you simulator, and the whole principle is that we have to help Kevin place traps throughout the house while Marv and Harry try to wrangle or dingle. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, no it's not. You walk around at the speed of smell while Marv and Griff are sprinting, or at least that's how it feels, because Kevin has an out-of-body experience every 10 seconds thanks to the shitty controls. It's a 20-minute game at best, and the controls are the primary reason why I hate it so much. You can glitch it out though, but where's the fun in that? I would rather play Home Alone 2, and even then, that's still a bad game. This game is a mistake, a physical, manifested object of humanity's hubris mistake. I talked about it before. This game makes zero sense and barely follows the plot of the source material. You walk around trying to piece together where to go, what box to jump in front of, which giant dude to kick in the nuts, which denizen of this hellscape of a town to run into, or what snake to avoid. There's even a room that was programmed on purpose to softlock you. It's known as the haha room if you're curious. Sometimes I think about going back to it, playing it, maybe even beating it, but then I remind myself that I'd rather raw dog a beehive after shaking it violently than ever sit down and play this again. It's frustrating too because the graphics are fairly decent, but the gameplay itself, it's horrid. The jump mechanics are my chief complaint. You have to hit A and B to jump, but A shoots and B punches. So more often than not, if you aren't expecting something and you want to jump, good luck. You'll just use your limited ammunition. And that's it. The worst movie games on the NES. Now I know that there are others out there, but the thing is, I saw myself potentially beating them if I took the time to practice. Yes, even Predator, which is abominable in its own way, or Godzilla 2 War of Monsters, which is a tactical RPG with a slot machine mechanic for fighting. That being said, thank you for taking the time to watch this episode, and if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up button because it helps share my videos with the world. In the comment section below, I would love to hear your take on some of the worst NES games based on films, and yes, I do respond to every comment, even the mean ones. As always, from my family to your family, good energy, good vibes. Fortifier out.